Back in mid to late 2022, I began posting content on LinkedIn. The reason I wanted to start posting content was because, well, if you watched the last video, then you know, after graduating college, I just kind of felt lost. I had so much free time and I wanted to get my ideas out there. I wanted to do something creative, something unique with my time. And I figured, hey, why not start writing online? So I built my profile, I optimized my headline, everything. Admittedly, I had no idea what the hell I was doing, and my skill for writing online was subpar. I was so used to academic writing that things like capturing attention, raising awareness, persuasion, and formatting posts was completely out of my wheelhouse. I had no idea at all what the hell to do. And that was okay. Because the main goal of me writing online was just to get my ideas out there, bridge the gap between these unique concepts I have in my mind, and attract like-minded people. But as I mentioned, I really didn't know what the hell to do. And I thought my ideas were great and my content was amazing and everybody should like it, but it wasn't getting any attention. I wasn't getting the attraction and recognition that I thought my writing deserved. Now, of course, this was a skill issue. As I said, I had no idea how to effectively write online. But this is still a shot to the ego. I thought, okay, well, when I look on the timeline on LinkedIn, I see a bunch of cookie cutter generic posts that anybody could write. And these posts are performing well. These posts are getting likes, comments. These posts are coming from people who have these massive followings. So I followed suit. These bugs are crazy. I'm out here in the middle of the woods again, and there's about 50 million mosquitoes flying around my head. So if I just go like this, then you know what I'm doing. So I saw these huge accounts putting out this generic and seemingly simple content, but it was doing so well. They were getting a bunch of likes, comments, and new followers every single day. Meanwhile, I wasn't. I was trying to be unique with what I was putting out there, and it just wasn't working. Now, yeah, as I mentioned, this was a skill issue, but even still, when I applied the frameworks and I wrote my hooks in a way that captured attention, things still weren't going well. And I was getting to the point where I was ready to essentially sell out and start posting the same content as these other guys to get a big following. And I did. For about 3 or 4 months, I shared a bunch of shallow, generic content, such as, here's how to optimize for engagement on LinkedIn. Here's how to grow your following on LinkedIn. Here's how to land clients in the DMs on LinkedIn. Even though at that time I had only landed one client, and this was somebody who came to me. So I was just sharing random shit just to get likes, comments, and new followers. It worked. But at the beginning of 2023, I realized this isn't fun. The reason I started writing online was to have a fun time. It was to explore these unique concepts, connect these perspectives, and as I said, build an audience of like-minded people who wanted to hear from me. So I realized, hey, I gotta change my ways. But the thing is, for the next 2 to 3 weeks, I really struggled writing content. I struggled exploring those unique concepts and interesting ideas that I previously had. This was because for the few months before, I was just essentially copy and pasting the basic content from other people. And I lost that edge, I lost that spark that excited me. And when it came down to actually writing the content, I struggled. So for the next 3 to 4 weeks, I poured over philosophy books, I watched documentaries, I read fiction, I immersed myself in all this high-level, high-quality content because I thought, hey, maybe I'm just out of ideas. Maybe I'm struggling to write because my brain has been conditioned to just read LinkedIn content. And while consuming this better, higher quality content was good for my writing, ultimately it didn't help at all. There was one night, a Saturday night, I went for a walk. I was so frustrated with my lack of ability to just sit down and write great content, especially since I had been consuming a lot of great content, which is something I'll talk about in a later video. And then this realization hit me so hard. This realization was, your creative block has nothing to do with lacking ideas. It stems from fear. Raw, uncomfortable, identity-threatening fear of creating what truly lights you up. It's the God's honest truth. I feared what others would say or what others would think by seeing my content. I feared putting content out there that didn't perform well because I had been brainwashed by the algorithm and seeing these other big name creators who seemingly had everything going for themselves to optimize for metrics. I was terrified of putting something out there that didn't do well. Or I was terrified of putting something out there that people judged or said, hey, this is terrible, or hey, you shouldn't post this stuff. That's what held me back. I had the ideas, I had the insights, I had the perspectives, but it was truly fear that held me back. And that is the case with many creative people out there to this day. Humans are tribal creatures. We thrive in groups. We have evolved to perform best when we're together, not when we're alone. This is why the whole lone wolf mentality is stupid, because anybody who pursues that with their business or their education or tries to be a lone wolf in life will have no strong relationships and ultimately won't be able to push through the hardships that they're experiencing because they don't have the support. If you're familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs, then you know that social acceptance and connection is one of the most important needs for every human on this earth, okay? We crave human connection. Without it, we can't survive. Knowing this, rejection, social rejection, it hurts. It stings really badly because we just want to be accepted and liked by everybody around us. There's a researcher named Adam Grant, and in his research, he found that idea rejection activates the same neural pathways as physical pain. So think about this. Let's say you have this unique idea you want to share with your buddies, but you're thinking twice about it. You're like, maybe not. Maybe they'll think it's stupid. Maybe they'll think I'm an idiot for even proposing this idea. Your brain is convincing you not to do it because it associates rejection of that idea with physical pain. Your brain thinks your survival is at stake by sharing the idea. That's insane. The same neural pathways that are activated when you are hurt physically are the same pathways that activate when an idea you share is laughed at or mocked or rejected. Think about that. Because of this, it's exactly why so many people have these amazing ideas but just sit on them. Because, as I mentioned before, we are social creatures. We need human connection. We need to feel accepted. And if something we put out there, if something we say is mocked or laughed at or shunned on, then we feel like we're going to die. Literally. Now, when it comes to putting your ideas out there on the internet, it's a lot like stripping naked and walking through Times Square in New York. After all, you're vulnerable. You're putting your thoughts, your face, your voice out there for the world to see. And you think everybody's watching. You think everybody's pointing their fingers at you and laughing. Ha ha, look at this idiot. So dumb. But the reality is most people don't care. They will watch. They might laugh. They might think, wow, okay, that is something. But then within seconds, they're on to the next piece of content. They're scrolling again, scrolling again, scrolling again, and they have completely forgot about you. Just like if you really were walking naked through New York City in Times Square, people would turn their heads and they'd say, oh my God, that's a sight to see. But then within 2 minutes, they forget about you completely. Just because there's so much going on. And the internet is the same way. Don't get me wrong, people will judge. People will laugh. People will leave nasty comments on your videos, on your text posts, etc., etc. People will say things meant to hurt you, meant to demean you, meant to lower your confidence. But ultimately, it's a part of the game. You can't have positivity and support without the negativity. All right? It's the idea of polarity. You can't have one without the other. You have to turn this fear of publishing into fuel by building your creative courage. All right? Now, a lot of people think courage is something that some people have and others don't. But the reality is that anybody can become courageous. Anybody can develop that confidence needed to turn fear into fuel when you're posting online. Consider this example. If you were to walk into the gym and try to lift 500 pounds, you couldn't do it. Unless you've been, of course, lifting for a while. But beginners need to start small. You'd go 20 pounds, then 50 pounds, then 75, then 100, and work your way up slowly. Okay, so eventually with progressive overload, you could maybe someday lift 500 pounds. And it's the same with your creative work. Maybe you're anxious and you're nervous and you don't want to put something out there. So you think about it for a while, you're timid, but then one day you're like, you know what, screw it, I'm doing it. And you put out that one post. Maybe 5, 6, 7 days pass, you say, you know what, I'm doing it again. Another 5, 6, 7 days pass, you say, screw it, I'm doing it again. At this point, you have momentum. You've built up the courage through the progressive overload. And maybe, just maybe, you start posting every 2 or 3 days. And then after a month or two, you say, you know what, I'm going to post every single day. That is because with this momentum, you've built up courage. With the courage, you have turned fear into fuel. And you can just keep posting. Because at this point, you don't fear the judgment of others. All right? The compounding effect has taken place, and now you're rolling. You have momentum. And you're ready to go. You're eager to put content out there. It can happen like that. But you have to start by just putting something out there to begin with. Another point I found from the same researcher that I mentioned before, Adam Grant, is that the consistently innovative people didn't have fewer failed ideas than others. Rather, they shared more ideas overall. Going back to the compounding effect that I mentioned before, the more you publish, the more momentum you build. When you have momentum, you build this lack of caring, essentially, for what others have to say, for what others will judge you on. And from there, you get to create these more innovative ideas, not only because you don't fear the judgment of others, but because you don't have these unconscious mental blocks running in the background of your mind saying, hey, don't post that, no, don't do it. The innovation comes from volume. You just got to get stuff out there, all right? The research shows that is the answer. You might be thinking, okay, yeah, maybe I'm a little motivated to post, but I'm still not so sure. Maybe I lack confidence. And I get it, because I was there too. Just the other day, I recorded the first video. I'm not sure when you're seeing this. Maybe you're seeing this 5 weeks after the original one was posted. But it's terrifying, me being on camera, me speaking like this. What the hell? I'm in the middle of the woods. I never thought I would be doing this, but here I am. And this shift, me doing this, has happened because I made this one simple tweak in my mind in terms of how I go about creating content. I used to ask this question, what will people think? But now the question I ask is, who am I becoming by consistently putting my ideas out there? It's gone from a question where I'm thinking outwardly, I'm thinking, what will they think? To an identity-based question, who am I becoming? Who is the man I'm becoming? What is the identity I'm taking on by putting my ideas out there? Okay? That is the shift you're going to make. Turn your fears from the external into the positives internally, so to speak. All right? Don't worry about what others will think, but worry about if you are becoming the person you want to become by putting your ideas out there. The moment you identify with somebody who publishes content, regardless, something shifts. In my opinion, from my experience, the analysis paralysis of ideas dissolves. The hesitancy when it comes to publishing is gone. It's eradicated. And you think, you know what? I am that person who publishes, so I am going to publish. That's where it all stems from. It's just taking on the identity of that person you are here to be. One last story before I finish this up, because honestly, these bugs are biting the ever-living shit out of me. My arms are all red, everywhere. It's getting crazy. So, Pablo Picasso is known as one of the greatest artists of all time. He lived in the late 1800s and the mid 1900s. The dude was a master of his craft. He put out paintings, drawings, sculptures, ceramics. The list goes on and on and on. Supposedly, he put out 50,000 pieces of art in his lifetime. He lived to be somewhere in his 80s, I'm pretty sure. So, point being is he was cranking out work consistently. He famously said, "I am always doing that which I cannot do in order that I may learn how to do it." That is a hard-hitting statement. This man acknowledged that oftentimes he has no idea what the hell he's doing, but he's doing it so he knows what the hell he's doing. All right? That's the only way you can learn these things. That's the only way you can become somebody who is proficient at that task. It's the only way you can leave a legacy, if that's what you're trying to do. While other artists in Picasso's time strive to create the perfect pieces and paint the perfect paintings, Picasso was like, screw that, I'm just going to churn out work. I'm just going to send. And that's exactly what he did. If Pablo Picasso spent 80 plus years creating all the interesting things that came to mind, evolving his art style, and voluntarily becoming a beginner at some sort of creative pursuit because he wanted to try it and learn how to do it, then it's time for you to do the same. Because he created really cool stuff, and you can do exactly that. I hope you enjoyed this video. This is an idea that I've been sitting on for a while, and given the subject material and me being on camera, talking about putting shit out there, just being creative and taking that risk of potentially being judged by others, but doing it anyways, is something that I've become strangely passionate about. So, these days with content being everywhere, but interestingly, so many people not doing anything creative, I figured this video was timely. So be sure to like, comment, subscribe, share this with a friend who you think should start creating content or should start creating anything because they're intelligent or funny or whatever. All right? So, oh, and in the comments below, let me know what projects you're working on. I've got some cool ideas coming up that you will be seeing in the next few videos. So, I won't share what I'm doing, but you'll see eventually. Anyways, these bugs are getting crazy. I gotta get home. You take care. I'll see you in the next one.